The bathroom tile felt cold beneath Sophia's bare feet as she stared at the plastic stick in her trembling hands. 2 pink lines. Clear, undeniable, life-changing. She'd suspected for weeks, the nausea that hit her every morning, the exhaustion that made climbing the stairs to their penthouse feel like scaling a mountain, the way her body felt different in ways she couldn't quite articulate. But seeing the confirmation made it real in a way that stole her breath. Sophia Chin had been married to Dante Moretti for 3 years, and in that time, she'd learned to expect very little from her husband beyond expensive gifts and empty promises. But this, their baby, this would change everything. It had to. She picked up her phone with shaking hands and opened the camera. The morning light streaming through the bathroom window caught the test perfectly, those 2 pink lines, practically glowing with significance. She snapped the photo, her heart racing as she typed out the message. Dante, I have news. Look at the photo. We're going to be parents. I'm pregnant. Call me as soon as you see this. I love you. She hit send and waited, watching the message shift from delivered to read, almost immediately. Her heart soared. He was online. He'd see it right away. The 3 dots appeared, indicating he was typing. Sophia held her breath, imagining his response, joy, excitement, maybe even a voice call so he could hear the happiness in her voice. The dots disappeared. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Then, something happened that would haunt Sophia for the rest of her life. Her message thread with Dante suddenly showed a single word beneath her photo, blocked. She stared at the screen, certain she was misunderstanding. She tried calling. The automated voice confirmed her nightmare. The number you have dialed is no longer accepting calls from this number. Sophia sank to the bathroom floor, the pregnancy test still clutched in one hand, her phone in the other. Dante hadn't just ignored her message. He'd seen the photo of their baby's positive pregnancy test and immediately blocked her number. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known in that moment of devastating abandonment, was that Dante was in bed with another woman when he received her message. And that woman, Isabella Russo, had been planning this moment for months. 6 hours earlier, Dante Moretti stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Russo family's private estate in the Hollywood Hills, watching the Los Angeles skyline shimmer in the pre-dawn darkness. Behind him, Isabella Russo traced lazy patterns on the silk sheets, her dark hair spread across the pillows like a crown. "You're thinking too much," Isabella murmured, her voice still husky from sleep and other activities. "Come back to bed." Dante turned to look at her, this woman who'd become his obsession over the past 8 months. Isabella was everything Sophia wasn't, bold where his wife was gentle, ambitious where Sophia was content, commanding where Sophia was accommodating. Isabella understood his world in a way Sophia never could. "I should get back," Dante said, though his feet didn't move toward his discarded clothes. "Sophia will wonder where I am." Isabella's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. "Sophia stopped wondering where you were months ago, Dante. She's learned to accept that you have a life beyond her little domestic bubble." It wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't entirely false either. Sophia had stopped calling him constantly, stopped asking detailed questions about his whereabouts. Dante told himself it was because she trusted him, but the truth was darker. She'd simply stopped expecting anything different. "Besides," Isabella continued, sitting up and letting the sheet fall away strategically, "we need to talk about our arrangement." Dante's jaw tightened. "What arrangement?" "The one where you stop pretending your marriage means anything and make this official." Isabella's voice was steel-wrapped in velvet. "My father is getting impatient, Dante. The alliance between the Moretti and Russo families was supposed to be sealed with marriage, not your little affair with that civilian you married on a whim." "Sophia isn't a whim," Dante said, though his defense sounded weak even to his own ears. "I love her." "You love the idea of her," Isabella corrected. "The sweet, innocent girl who looked at you like you hung the moon." "But love doesn't build empires, Dante. Strategic alliances do. And right now, your marriage to that nobody is standing in the way of the most powerful family merger on the West Coast." Dante's phone buzzed on the nightstand. He glanced at it and saw Sophia's name flash across the screen with a photo attachment. His finger hovered over the notification for a split second. Isabella was faster. She grabbed the phone and opened the message before Dante could react. Her face transformed from seduction to cold calculation in an instant as she stared at the image. "Well," she said slowly, a dangerous smile playing at her lips. "This complicates things." "What is it?" Dante reached for the phone, but Isabella held it just out of reach. "Your wife is pregnant." The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Dante felt his world tilt sideways. Pregnant. Sophia was pregnant. They talked about children someday, in that vague way couples do when the future feels distant and theoretical. But now it was real, immediate, unavoidable. "Let me see," Dante demanded, finally grabbing the phone. He stared at the photo, a pregnancy test with 2 clear pink lines propped against what looked like their bathroom sink. Sophia's message beneath it was painfully hopeful, painfully naive. "We're going to be parents." For a moment, something shifted in Dante's chest. An image flashed through his mind. Sophia with a rounded belly, her face glowing with that particular joy pregnant women have. A child, his child, with Sophia's gentle eyes and quick smile. Then Isabella's hand was on his shoulder, her breath warm against his ear. "You know what this means, don't you? She's trying to trap you. She knows she's losing you, so she's manufacturing a crisis to pull you back." "It's not manufactured," Dante said slowly. "She's actually pregnant. Are you sure it's even yours?" The accusation was so absurd, so contrary to everything Dante knew about Sophia, that he should have laughed. Sophia, who blushed when he kissed her in public, who'd been a virgin when they married, who couldn't lie to save her life. The idea of her cheating was impossible. But Isabella's voice was a poison, expertly administered. "Think about it, Dante. You've been distant for months. She's been home alone constantly. And suddenly, conveniently, she's pregnant right when your relationship is falling apart. Sophia wouldn't she? Women do desperate things when they're about to lose their meal ticket. And let's be honest, what else does she bring to your life? She's not from our world. She doesn't understand the business. She can't help you politically or strategically. She's dead weight, Dante. Beautiful, sweet dead weight." Dante stared at the photo, his mind at war with itself. The rational part of him knew Isabella was manipulating him. But there was another part, the part that had been slowly pulling away from Sophia for months, the part that found her simplicity boring and her gentleness weak, that wanted to believe the lie. Because if Sophia had betrayed him, then he wasn't the villain in this story. He wasn't the husband who'd broken his vows and his wife's heart. He'd be the victim, justified in his anger, righteous in his rejection. "Block her," Isabella said simply. "What?" "Block her number. Right now. Show her that you won't be manipulated. Show her that trying to trap you with a fake pregnancy won't work." "I don't know if it's fake." "Then find out later. But right now, in this moment, you need to make a choice." Isabella moved to stand in front of him, naked and shameless and utterly confident. "You can choose the scared little girl who's trying to chain you down with a baby. Or you can choose me. Choose power. Choose the future we've been building." Dante looked at his phone, at Sophia's message, at those 2 pink lines that represented a future he hadn't planned for and wasn't sure he wanted. His finger moved almost without conscious thought. Block contact. Confirm. The screen showed blocked beneath Sophia's message. Isabella smiled and kissed him deeply. "Good choice. Now let's talk about our wedding." Sophia sat on her bathroom floor for 20 minutes before she could make herself move. The pregnancy test lay beside her phone, both objects now representing a future she'd imagined and a present she couldn't comprehend. Blocked. Dante had blocked her. She tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe his phone had glitched. Maybe he'd accidentally hit the wrong button. But even as she constructed these flimsy excuses, she knew the truth. Dante had seen that she was pregnant and had deliberately, consciously cut off all communication. Sophia forced herself to stand, her legs shaky. She looked at herself in the mirror, the same face as yesterday, but somehow everything had changed. She was going to be a mother, and apparently, she was going to do it alone. No, not alone. She had options, resources, friends. She just needed to think clearly, to make a plan. She tried calling Dante from the landline in their bedroom, a number he wouldn't recognize. It rang twice before a woman's voice answered. "Hello." The voice was cultured, amused, and definitely not a secretary. Sophia's blood ran cold. I'm looking for Dante Moretti. He's occupied at the moment. Can I take a message? This is his wife. There was a pause, then a low laugh. Oh, how perfect. Yes, Sophia, isn't it? Dante's told me so much about you. The way the woman said Dante's name, intimate, possessive, made Sophia's stomach turn. I'm Isabella Russo. Perhaps you've heard of my family. Sophia had. The Russo family controlled half the West Coast's underground operations. They were old money, old power, and extremely dangerous. Why are you answering my husband's phone? Because your husband is right here, and he asked me to handle his calls while he's otherwise engaged. Isabella's voice dropped to mock sympathy. Look, Sophia, I'm going to be kind and give you some advice. Dante's moved on. This marriage was a phase for him, a rebellion against his family's expectations. But he's back where he belongs now. With me. With his people. I'm pregnant with his child. So you claim. How convenient. It's not a claim, it's a fact. Save it for the lawyers, sweetheart. Dante and I are getting married in 3 months. You'll be receiving divorce papers shortly. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The line went dead. Sophia stood in her bedroom, the room she'd shared with Dante for 3 years, decorated with photos of their wedding, their honeymoon, happier times that now felt like fiction, and felt her world collapse. He wasn't just cheating. He was replacing her entirely. Sophia spent the next 3 days in a fog of disbelief and determination. She tried everything to reach Dante, showing up at his office building only to be turned away by security, calling his business partners who suddenly didn't know where he was, even reaching out to his mother, Maria Moretti, who lived in New York. Maria answered on the 3rd ring, her Italian accent still thick despite 40 years in America. Sophia, Cara, what's wrong? You sound terrible. Maria, I need to talk to Dante. It's urgent. He's blocked my number and I can't reach him. There was a long pause. He blocked you? That boy. What has he done now? I'm pregnant, Maria. I sent him the test results, and he blocked me. And there's a woman, Isabella Russo, who says they're getting married. The silence on the other end was deafening. When Maria finally spoke, her voice was heavy with resignation. The Russo girl. I warned him this alliance would destroy his marriage, but he wouldn't listen. The business always comes first with these men, Sophia. Always. So you knew? You knew he was planning to leave me. I knew the families were pushing for a merger. I didn't know it had gone this far. Maria sighed deeply. Sophia, I love you like a daughter. But I need you to understand something about our world. Men like Dante, they marry for love once, maybe. But they build empires on strategic alliances. The Russo family has power, connections, and legitimacy that I don't have, Sophia finished bitterly. Because I'm just a nobody he married on a whim. You're not a nobody. You're the woman who made my son smile for the first time in years. But Sophia, if Dante has chosen this path, fighting him will only bring you pain. Take a settlement, take care of yourself and the baby, and walk away with your dignity. I don't want money, Maria. I want my husband. Then you want something that may no longer exist. After hanging up, Sophia sat in the empty penthouse and faced an unbearable truth. She was completely alone. The friends she'd had before marrying Dante had drifted away, uncomfortable with her new world of wealth and danger. The wives of Dante's associates had never fully accepted her. She was too young, too ordinary, too obviously out of place at their charity galas and society events. She had no family. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was 19, leaving her working double shifts as a waitress to pay for community college. That's where Dante had found her, serving him coffee at a diner near his office, charmed by her genuine smile and the fact that she didn't recognize him or care about his money. He'd courted her intensely, overwhelmed her with attention and affection, married her within 6 months. And now, 3 years later, he was discarding her with the same decisive speed. Sophia placed her hand on her still flat stomach. It's okay, baby, she whispered. We don't need him. We'll be fine on our own. Dante stared at the photo, his mind at war with itself. The rational part of him knew Isabella was manipulating him. But there was another part, the part that had been slowly pulling away from Sophia for months, the part that found her simplicity boring and her gentleness weak, that wanted to believe the lie. Because if Sophia had betrayed him, then he wasn't the villain in this story. He wasn't the husband who'd broken his vows and his wife's heart. He'd be the victim, justified in his anger, righteous in his rejection. Block her, Isabella said simply. What? Block her number. Right now. Show her that you won't be manipulated. Show her that trying to trap you with a fake pregnancy won't work. I don't know if it's fake. Then find out later. But right now, in this moment, you need to make a choice. Isabella moved to stand in front of him, naked and shameless and utterly confident. You can choose the scared little girl who's trying to chain you down with a baby. Or you can choose me. Choose power. Choose the future we've been building. Dante looked at his phone, at Sophia's message, at those 2 pink lines that represented a future he hadn't planned for and wasn't sure he wanted. His finger moved almost without conscious thought. Block contact. Confirm. The screen showed blocked beneath Sophia's message. Isabella smiled and kissed him deeply. Good choice. Now let's talk about our wedding. Sophia sat on her bathroom floor for 20 minutes before she could make herself move. The pregnancy test lay beside her phone, both objects now representing a future she'd imagined and a present she couldn't comprehend. Blocked. Dante had blocked her. She tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe his phone had glitched. Maybe he'd accidentally hit the wrong button. But even as she constructed these flimsy excuses, she knew the truth. Dante had seen that she was pregnant and had deliberately, consciously cut off all communication. Sophia forced herself to stand, her legs shaky. She looked at herself in the mirror, the same face as yesterday, but somehow everything had changed. She was going to be a mother, and apparently, she was going to do it alone. No, not alone. She had options, resources, friends. She just needed to think clearly, to make a plan. She tried calling Dante from the landline in their bedroom, a number he wouldn't recognize. It rang twice before a woman's voice answered. Hello. The voice was cultured, amused, and definitely not a secretary. Sophia's blood ran cold. I'm looking for Dante Moretti. He's occupied at the moment. Can I take a message? This is his wife. There was a pause, then a low laugh. Oh, how perfect. Yes, Sophia, isn't it? Dante's told me so much about you. The way the woman said Dante's name, intimate, possessive, made Sophia's stomach turn. I'm Isabella Russo. Perhaps you've heard of my family. Sophia had. The Russo family controlled half the West Coast's underground operations. They were old money, old power, and extremely dangerous. Why are you answering my husband's phone? Because your husband is right here, and he asked me to handle his calls while he's otherwise engaged. Isabella's voice dropped to mock sympathy. Look, Sophia, I'm going to be kind and give you some advice. Dante's moved on. This marriage was a phase for him, a rebellion against his family's expectations. But he's back where he belongs now. With me. With his people. I'm pregnant with his child. So you claim. How convenient. It's not a claim, it's a fact. Save it for the lawyers, sweetheart. Dante and I are getting married in 3 months. You'll be receiving divorce papers shortly. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. The line went dead. Sophia stood in her bedroom, the room she'd shared with Dante for 3 years, decorated with photos of their wedding, their honeymoon, happier times that now felt like fiction, and felt her world collapse. He wasn't just cheating. He was replacing her entirely. Sophia spent the next 3 days in a fog of disbelief and determination. She tried everything to reach Dante, showing up at his office building only to be turned away by security, calling his business partners who suddenly didn't know where he was, even reaching out to his mother, Maria Moretti, who lived in New York. Maria answered on the 3rd ring, her Italian accent still thick despite 40 years in America. Sophia, Cara, what's wrong? You sound terrible. Maria, I need to talk to Dante. It's urgent. He's blocked my number and I can't reach him. There was a long pause. He blocked you? That boy. What has he done now? I'm pregnant, Maria. I sent him the test results and he blocked me. And there's a woman, Isabella Russo, who says they're getting married. The silence on the other end was deafening. When Maria finally spoke, her voice was heavy with resignation. The Russo girl. I warned him this alliance would destroy his marriage, but he wouldn't listen. The business always comes first with these men, Sophia. Always. So you knew? You knew he was planning to leave me. I knew the families were pushing for a merger. I didn't know it had gone this far. Maria sighed deeply. Sophia, I love you like a daughter. But I need you to understand something about our world. Men like Dante, they marry for love once, maybe. But they build empires on strategic alliances. The Russo family has power, connections, and legitimacy that I don't have, Sophia finished bitterly. Because I'm just a nobody he married on a whim. You're not a nobody. You're the woman who made my son smile for the first time in years. But Sophia, if Dante has chosen this path, fighting him will only bring you pain. Take a settlement, take care of yourself and the baby, and walk away with your dignity. I don't want money, Maria. I want my husband. Then you want something that may no longer exist. After hanging up, Sophia sat in the empty penthouse and faced an unbearable truth. She was completely alone. The friends she'd had before marrying Dante had drifted away, uncomfortable with her new world of wealth and danger. The wives of Dante's associates had never fully accepted her. She was too young, too ordinary, too obviously out of place at their charity galas and society events. She had no family. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was 19, leaving her working double shifts as a waitress to pay for community college. That's where Dante had found her, serving him coffee at a diner near his office, charmed by her genuine smile and the fact that she didn't recognize him or care about his money. He'd courted her intensely, overwhelmed her with attention and affection, married her within 6 months. And now, 3 years later, he was discarding her with the same decisive speed. Sophia placed her hand on her still flat stomach. It's okay, baby, she whispered. We don't need him. We'll be fine on our own. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't entirely true. The penthouse belonged to Dante. The car she drove was registered in his name. The credit cards she used were connected to his accounts. She'd stopped working when they married. Dante insisted on it, said his wife didn't need to work. She'd been so naive, so trusting. She'd given up her independence, her job, her entire life, and rebuilt herself around being Mrs. Dante Moretti. The sound of the front door opening made her heart leap with desperate hope. Maybe Dante had come home. Maybe this had all been a terrible misunderstanding. But it wasn't Dante who walked into the living room. It was Vincent, Dante's head of security, accompanied by 2 men in expensive suits. Mrs. Moretti, Vincent said, his expression apologetic but firm. I'm sorry to do this, but I need you to come with us. What? Where? What's happening? One of the suited men stepped forward. Mrs. Moretti, I'm James Chun, Mr. Moretti's attorney. Your husband has instructed us to facilitate your transition out of this residence. We have temporary housing arranged for you, and we'll be discussing the terms of your separation. The words hit her like physical blows. He's kicking me out? I live here. This is my home. The penthouse is owned by the Moretti Family Trust, the attorney said, his voice professionally neutral. Mr. Moretti is within his rights to reclaim it. However, we're prepared to offer you a generous settlement. I don't want a settlement. I want to talk to my husband. Mr. Moretti has made it clear he doesn't wish to have contact with you at this time. Now, we can do this cooperatively, or we can involve law enforcement. Your choice. Sophia looked at Vincent, the man who'd driven her to doctor's appointments, who taught her to make espresso the way Dante liked it, who'd been a friendly presence in her life for 3 years. Vincent, please, just let me talk to him. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes to explain. Vincent's jaw tightened. Ma'am, I have my orders. I'm sorry. She realized then that there would be no reasoning with these men. They worked for Dante, and Dante had made his decision. Fine, Sophia said, her voice eerily calm. I'll pack my things. We've already arranged for your personal belongings to be boxed and delivered to your new apartment, the attorney said. If you'll just come with us now. No. The word came out stronger than she felt. You can throw me out of this penthouse, but you don't get to pack my life into boxes like I'm an inconvenience you're disposing of. I'm taking what's mine, and you're going to wait while I do it. Something in her tone made the attorney step back. You have 30 minutes. Sophia walked to the bedroom she'd shared with Dante and began methodically packing. Not the designer clothes he bought her, not the expensive jewelry, not any of the trappings of a life she was losing. She packed her own things, the few possessions she'd brought into the marriage, the books she'd collected, the photos from before Dante, when she'd been nobody's wife and somehow happier for it. In the bathroom, she found the pregnancy test still sitting where she'd left it that morning. Those 2 pink lines that had changed everything. She wrapped it carefully in tissue and placed it in her purse. Evidence of a child Dante didn't want to acknowledge. As she packed, her phone, her personal cell phone that Dante had never controlled, buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Sophia, this is Maria Moretti. I'm sending you something. Check your email. And remember, you're stronger than you know." Sophia opened her email on her phone and found a message from Maria with an attachment. It was a bank statement showing a trust fund in Sophia's name, money Maria had apparently been secretly setting aside since the wedding. The email read, "Every month, I deposited money for you. I've seen too many wives left with nothing when the men in our family decide to trade up. This is yours. Dante doesn't know about it, and neither does his father. Use it to disappear if you need to. Start over. You deserve better than what my son is giving you." The account showed $300,000. Not enough to live in luxury forever, but enough to disappear, to start fresh, to raise her baby far from Dante's world. Sophia stared at the number, feeling something shift inside her. She'd spent 3 days begging for scraps of Dante's attention, trying to make him acknowledge their child, degrading herself for a man who'd blocked her number and was planning to marry someone else. No more. She finished packing, zipped her suitcase, and walked back into the living room where Vincent and the lawyers waited. "I'm ready," she said simply. They drove her to a modest apartment in a neighborhood far from the luxury of Dante's world. The attorney handed her a folder. "The divorce papers. Mr. Moretti is prepared to offer you a settlement of $500,000, the car you've been driving, and 12 months of health insurance. In exchange, you agree to make no claim on any Moretti assets, businesses, or properties. You also agree to a non-disclosure agreement regarding the family's private affairs." Sophia looked at the papers without touching them. "And if I don't sign, then Mr. Moretti will contest the divorce, freeze all your access to funds, and make the process as difficult and expensive as possible. He has the resources for a protracted legal battle. Do you?" The threat was clear. "Sign quietly and go away or be destroyed." Sophia took the folder. "I'll have my attorney review these. You have 48 hours. After they left, Sophia sat in the unfamiliar apartment and made a decision. She wasn't going to sign anything. She wasn't going to play by Dante's rules. And she definitely wasn't going to make it easy for him to erase her and their child from his life. She opened her laptop and began researching. If Dante wanted a war, she'd give him one. But she wouldn't fight it on his terms. 2 weeks later, Dante stood in the gardens of the Russo estate, surrounded by wedding planners discussing flower arrangements and seating charts. Isabella moved through it all with the confidence of a woman who'd gotten exactly what she wanted. The wedding was set for 6 weeks from now, a lavish affair that would unite 2 of the West Coast's most powerful families. Invitations had already gone out to politicians, judges, business leaders, and carefully selected members of the criminal underworld who operated with the veneer of legitimacy. Dante should have felt triumphant. This marriage would give him access to the Russo family's political connections, their international networks, their centuries-old power structure. With Isabella at his side, he'd be unstoppable. So why did he feel hollow? "You're distracted," Isabella observed, appearing at his elbow with champagne. "Still thinking about her?" "No," Dante lied. "Good, because I have news." Isabella's smile was sharp. Sophia didn't sign the divorce papers. She missed the deadline. Dante frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means your little wife is being difficult. My attorney suggests we take a more aggressive approach. Freeze her accounts, file for abandonment, make life uncomfortable until she cooperates. She's pregnant, Isabella. We can't just..." "Can't we?" Isabella's eyes glittered dangerously. "Dante, you need to stop being soft about this. Sophia is an obstacle standing between you and the future we're building. Either remove her, or I'll do it for you." Before Dante could respond, his phone rang. It was Vincent. "Boss, we have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "It's about Sophia. She's gone." Dante felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean, gone?" She cleared out of the apartment we set her up in. No forwarding address, no trace. It's like she vanished. Find her, Dante ordered, his voice harder than he intended. I don't care what it takes. Find her. After hanging up, he realized Isabella was watching him with an unreadable expression. You still care about her, she said flatly. I care about protecting the family's interests. If she's disappeared, she could be planning something, talking to the FBI, reaching out to rival families, who knows. Or, Isabella said slowly, she could be running scared because she knows she can't win. Either way, let her go, Dante. Focus on what matters. Focus on us. But as Dante looked out at the gardens being transformed for his wedding to Isabella, he couldn't shake the image of Sophia's face when he'd last seen her, tired, sad, still looking at him with hope he didn't deserve. He'd blocked her number when she told him about the baby. He'd had her forcibly removed from their home. He'd threatened her with legal destruction if she didn't cooperate. And now she was gone, carrying his child, disappeared into a world he couldn't control. For the first time since this started, Dante felt afraid. 3 weeks later, unknown location. Sophia sat in the OBGYN's office in a small town 3 states away from Los Angeles, listening to her baby's heartbeat through the ultrasound monitor. The sound filled the room. Strong, steady, perfect. Everything looks great, Dr. Rivera said warmly. Baby is measuring right on track for 10 weeks. Are you feeling okay? Any morning sickness? Some, Sophia admitted. But it's manageable. And you're sure you don't want to notify the father? It's not required, but legally. I'm sure. Sophia had driven east, using cash from Maria's trust fund, creating a trail that would be nearly impossible to follow. She dyed her hair from light brown to dark auburn, started wearing glasses instead of contacts, and introduced herself with her mother's maiden name, Sophia Zhang. In this small college town, nobody knew who the Morettas were. Nobody cared about Mafia politics or family alliances. She was just another single mother-to-be starting over. She found a job managing a small bookstore. The owner was an elderly woman who asked no questions and paid cash under the table. The apartment above the store was tiny but clean, and the rent was reasonable. For the first time in weeks, Sophia felt like she could breathe. Her phone buzzed. Not the phone Dante had known about, but a new burner phone she bought with cash. The number was from a blocked caller. She answered cautiously. Hello. Sophia, it's Maria. Sophia's breath caught. Maria, how did you get this number? I have my ways. Are you safe? Yes, I'm safe. Good. Maria's voice was heavy with something Sophia couldn't identify. I need to tell you something about Dante. He's been looking for you. Desperately. He made his choice. He did. And now he's living with the consequences. Maria paused. The wedding is in 3 weeks. He and Isabella will be married at the Russo estate. It will make all the papers. The words should have hurt, but Sophia felt strangely numb. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know. And because I need to know, is my grandchild going to be part of my life? Sophia placed her hand on her small bump. I don't know yet, Maria. I'm still figuring things out. I understand. But Sophia, when you do figure it out, remember that not everyone in the Moretti family abandoned you. Some of us see you for exactly what you are, the best thing that ever happened to my son, even if he was too stupid to realize it. After hanging up, Sophia walked to the bookstore's window and looked out at the quiet street. Somewhere, Dante was planning his wedding to Isabella. Somewhere, he was building his empire and his strategic alliance. And here, in this small town nobody had heard of, Sophia was building something infinitely more valuable, a life where she and her baby would never have to beg for love or attention. If you're hooked on the story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. She didn't know it yet, but in 3 weeks, on the day of Dante's wedding, everything would change again. Because the Russo family had plans Dante didn't know about, and Sophia's disappearance had set in motion a chain of events that would bring everything crashing down. But for now, in this quiet moment, Sophia Zhang was at peace. And that was more than Sophia Moretti had ever been. The Russo estate had been transformed into something from a fairy tale or a beautiful nightmare, depending on who you asked. White roses cascaded from every surface, Crystal chandeliers sparkled in the afternoon sun, and 500 of the West Coast's most powerful people gathered to witness the union of Dante Moretti and Isabella Russo. Dante stood at the altar in his custom Italian tuxedo, watching Isabella approach down the aisle in a gown that cost more than most people's houses. She looked triumphant, radiant, like a queen claiming her throne. He felt nothing. For 3 months, he'd thrown himself into this merger because that's what it was, not a marriage but a corporate acquisition dressed in white. He convinced himself that Sophia had been a weakness, a distraction from his true purpose. That Isabella's cold calculation was what he needed, not Sophia's gentle warmth. But as Isabella reached the altar and took his hands, all Dante could think about was Sophia's face the morning she'd sent him that pregnancy test. The hope in her eyes, the love, the baby he'd never acknowledged. "Dearly beloved," the officiant began, his voice carrying across the hushed crowd. Dante's phone vibrated in his pocket. He'd forgotten to turn it off. Isabella's eyes flashed with irritation, but the ceremony continued. It vibrated again, and again. "If anyone has objections to this union," the officiant intoned, "speak now or forever hold your peace." The doors at the back of the venue burst open. Vincent stood there, his face pale, holding a tablet. "Boss, I'm sorry. You need to see this. Right now." Isabella's father, Carmine Russo, stood from his seat. "This is highly irregular." "It's about Sophia," Vincent said, his voice carrying across the silent room. "And the baby." Everything stopped. The string quartet fell silent. 500 people turned to stare. Isabella's grip on Dante's hands tightened like a vice. Dante walked down the aisle, leaving Isabella at the altar, and took the tablet from Vincent. On the screen was a medical record. Sophia Moretti, prenatal care documentation from a clinic in Nevada. The date showed she was now 20 weeks pregnant, halfway through her pregnancy. But that wasn't what made Dante's blood run cold. There was a note flagged urgent from the attending physician. Patient presenting with placental complications. High-risk pregnancy requiring immediate specialist consultation. Patient has no insurance coverage and has declined treatment due to inability to pay. Recommend immediate intervention to prevent fetal distress and maternal hemorrhaging. The date stamp was from 2 days ago. "Where is she?" Dante demanded. "We traced her to a small town called Silver Creek, Nevada." "But boss, there's more." Vincent pulled up another document. "She tried to use the health insurance you promised in the divorce settlement. It was never activated. She's been paying for all her prenatal care out of pocket, and she's run out of money." Dante felt the world tilt. "What do you mean it was never activated?" Vincent glanced at Isabella. "Someone blocked the insurance authorization. 3 months ago." Dante turned slowly to look at his bride, still standing at the altar in her $1,000 gown. "Isabella!" She walked toward him, her expression unreadable. "I did what needed to be done. She was trying to manipulate you with a pregnancy that probably isn't even yours. I wasn't going to let her bleed you dry with fake medical emergencies." "Fake!" Dante's voice was dangerously quiet. "She's 20 weeks pregnant. That's 5 months. That's real, Isabella." "Fine. Then she can handle it herself. She chose to run away, chose to hide from you. Why should you pay for her choices?" Dante stared at the woman he'd been about to marry and saw her clearly for the first time. Not a partner, not even an ally. Just ambition in a wedding dress. "The insurance," he said slowly, "was part of a legal settlement. You committed fraud. I protected our interests. You endangered my child." Each word came out like a bullet. "My wife is in a hospital somewhere, bleeding, because you decided to play God with her medical care." "Your wife!" Isabella's voice rose. "I'm about to be your wife, Dante. In case you forgot, we're in the middle of our wedding." Dante pulled the wedding ring off his finger and handed it to her. "No, we're not." The crowd erupted in whispers. Carmine Russo stepped forward, his face dark with rage. "Moretti, you walk away from this altar, you walk away from everything. The alliance, the territories, the protection. My family becomes your enemy." Dante looked at the most powerful crime boss on the West Coast and felt nothing but contempt. "Then I guess I have a new enemy." He turned to Vincent. "Get the jet ready. I don't care if you have to bribe every air traffic controller from here to Nevada. I need to be in Silver Creek within 2 hours. Boss, there's one more thing. Vincent pulled up a final document. Sophia's medical files show she listed no father on all the intake forms. Legally, you have no rights to that baby. And if something happens to her, nothing is going to happen to her. Dante's voice was steel. Because I'm going to make sure she gets the best medical care money can buy. And then I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I deserve to be that baby's father. He walked out of his own wedding, leaving Isabella at the altar and 500 witnesses to the destruction of the West Coast's most anticipated alliance. Behind him, he heard Carmine Russo say, "You just made the biggest mistake of your life, Moretti." Dante didn't look back. No, the biggest mistake of my life was walking away from Sophia in the first place. Silver Creek Community Hospital, 4 hours later. Dante burst through the emergency room doors like a man possessed, Vincent and 2 bodyguards flanking him. The small hospital staff looked up in alarm as this tornado of expensive suits and barely contained panic descended on their quiet facility. "Sophia-chan," Dante said to the nurse at reception. "She was admitted 2 days ago. Pregnancy complications. Where is she?" The nurse looked uncertain. "Sir, I can't give out patient information." Dante pulled out his wallet and placed a stack of $100 bills on the counter. "I'm her husband, the father of her baby, and I need to see her. Now." The woman in 214 said she didn't have a husband. "Because I was an idiot." Dante's voice cracked. "Please, I just need to know if she's okay." Something in his desperation must have reached the nurse, because she glanced at the money, then at his face, and made a decision. Room 214. "But visiting hours end at 8. I'm not visiting. I'm staying." Dante took the stairs 2 at a time, his heart pounding. What would he say? What could he possibly say that would make up for 3 months of abandonment? He reached room 214 and stopped, his hand on the door handle. Inside, he could hear voices. Sophia's voice, tired but alive, and another woman's voice, older, kind. "You're very brave, doing this all alone," the older voice said. "I'm not alone," Sophia replied softly. "I have my baby. That's enough." Dante pushed open the door. Sophia was in the hospital bed, and 4 in her arm, her hand resting protectively on the small bump now visible beneath the thin hospital gown. Her hair was different, darker, longer. She looked thinner, more fragile than he remembered. But when she looked up and saw him, her expression didn't show surprise, or joy, or even anger. It showed exhaustion. "What are you doing here, Dante?" The older woman, a nurse, based on her scrubs, looked between them and quietly excused herself. Dante stepped into the room, and the door closed behind him with a sound like finality. "I just found out about your medical situation. The complications. Sophia, why didn't you tell me?" "Tell you?" A bitter laugh escaped her. "Dante, you blocked my number the day I told you I was pregnant. You had me thrown out of our home. You offered me money to disappear. Which part of that made you seem like someone I could call for help?" "I made mistakes." "Mistakes?" Sophia's voice rose, then cracked. "You saw the pregnancy test and chose to believe I was lying. You were in bed with another woman while I was trying to tell you about our baby. And then you married her. Don't talk to me about mistakes like you accidentally spilled coffee. You deliberately destroyed our marriage." "I didn't marry her." Sophia blinked. "What?" "I walked out. At the altar. In front of 500 people." Dante moved closer to the bed, "because I realized that everything I thought I wanted, the power, the alliance, the empire, none of it means anything if you and our baby aren't in my life. So you had an epiphany at your wedding, and now you expect me to what? Thank you? Welcome you back? No. I expect you to hate me. I expect you to tell me to leave and never come back. I deserve that." Dante's voice shook. "But Sophia, I need you to know that I was wrong. About everything. I let Isabella poison my mind against you. I chose ambition over love. I blocked you because I was a coward who didn't want to face the consequences of my choices." Sophia stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "Do you have any idea what these last 3 months have been like? I've been working at a bookstore for minimum wage, trying to save money for medical bills. I had to choose between paying rent and getting the ultrasounds the doctor recommended. I've been eating pasta and canned soup because that's all I can afford. I'm so sorry. I called you 7 times that first day, Dante. 7 times. And every time you declined my call, a piece of my heart died. By the time I got to the hospital alone, I had nothing left to give you. Not my anger, not my hurt, not even my hope. You killed it all. Dante felt tears he hadn't cried since childhood burning in his eyes. What can I do? How do I fix this? You can't. Sophia's voice was matter-of-fact. You can't unblock those calls. You can't erase the nights I spent alone wondering if my baby would survive because I couldn't afford proper medical care. You can't give me back the husband I loved because I don't think he exists anymore. He does. Sophia, I swear to you. Stop. She held up her hand. Just stop. I don't want your promises. I don't want your money. I don't want your sudden, guilt-driven redemption arc. Then what do you want? Sophia was quiet for a long moment, her hand moving in slow circles over her belly. I want you to sign the divorce papers. I want you to give up all parental rights to this baby. And I want you to let me disappear again, this time for good. The words hit Dante like bullets. No. You don't get to say no. You gave up the right to have a say in my life the day you blocked my number. I'm not giving up my child, Sophia. I've already lost 3 months of his pregnancy. I've missed every milestone, every appointment, every moment. I'm not missing any more. You don't have a choice. I can list father unknown on the birth certificate. You'll have no legal rights. Dante sat down heavily in the chair beside her bed. Then I'll fight you. I'll take you to court. I'll use every resource I have to prove paternity and claim my rights as a father. With what money? You walked out on the Russo alliance. Carmine Russo now wants you dead. Your empire is about to crumble. I don't care about the empire. Dante looked at her, really looked at her, seeing past his own guilt to the woman who'd been strong enough to survive his betrayal. Sophia, you asked me what I want. I want to be there when you get the next ultrasound. I want to learn if we're having a boy or a girl. I want to hold your hand during labor. I want to be the father our child deserves, even if I wasn't the husband you deserved. It's a boy, Sophia said quietly. Dante's breath caught. What? We're having a boy. I found out 2 weeks ago. She looked away. I was going to name him Daniel. After my father. Daniel, Dante repeated, the name settling into his heart like an anchor. That's perfect. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid filling the small hospital room. Finally, Sophia spoke. The doctor says I need to stay here for at least a week. The complications are serious. There's a specialist in Las Vegas who can help, but the treatment costs. Money is not an issue, Dante said immediately. I'll handle everything. The specialist, the hospital bills, everything you need. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's my responsibility. That's my son you're carrying, and even if you never forgive me, even if we never speak again after he's born, I'm going to make sure both of you have everything you need. Sophia studied his face. I don't trust you, Dante. I know. I don't love you anymore. The words cut deep, but Dante nodded. I understand. But, Sophia's voice softened slightly. I don't want our son to grow up without a father. I don't want him to wonder why his daddy didn't want him. I want him, Dante said urgently. I want both of you, more than I've ever wanted anything. Then prove it, not with money or grand gestures. Prove it by being here. Every day, every appointment, every moment. I will. I promise you, Sophia. I will spend every day for the rest of my life proving that I can be the man you and Daniel deserve. Sophia closed her eyes, exhausted. We'll see. The small house in Silver Creek was nothing like the penthouse in Los Angeles. It had 3 bedrooms, a yard with actual grass, and neighbors who brought over casseroles and asked how you were doing. Dante had bought it the day Sophia was released from the hospital, but he didn't live there. He lived in an apartment across town, close enough to be available but far enough to give Sophia space. Every morning, he showed up at 7 to help with breakfast. Every evening, he came back to cook dinner. He went to every doctor's appointment, every ultrasound, every birthing class. He didn't push for reconciliation. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He just showed up, day after day, proving through action what words could never convey. The Russo family had indeed declared war. Dante's assets in Los Angeles were seized or destroyed. His former allies became enemies overnight, but with Maria's help, he liquidated what he could and walked away from the rest. For the first time in his adult life, Dante Moretti wasn't a mafia boss. He was just a man trying to earn back the trust of the woman he loved. The call came at 2 a.m. Dante's phone rang with Sophia's ringtone, a sound he'd programmed to override all other notifications. "It's time." Sophia's voice was tight with pain. "The contractions are 5 minutes apart." Dante was out of bed and in his car within 30 seconds. He made the drive to her house in record time, finding her in the living room, breathing through a contraction. "I've got you," he said, helping her to the car. "We're going to meet our son." The labor was long. 14 hours of Sophia gripping Dante's hand hard enough to leave bruises, of ice chips and breathing exercises and moments of pure terror when the monitors showed distress. But at 4:47 p.m., Daniel Alessandro Moretti came into the world screaming, perfect and healthy and absolutely beautiful. Dante cut the cord with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face as the nurse placed his son in his arms for the first time. "Hello, Daniel," he whispered. "I'm your daddy. And I promise you, I'm never going to let you down." He looked at Sophia, exhausted and radiant in the hospital bed, and saw something in her eyes he hadn't seen in months. Not love, not yet, but possibility. "Thank you," he said, "for giving me this chance. For not giving up on me completely." Sophia reached for Daniel, and Dante carefully transferred their son to her arms. She looked down at the baby with such overwhelming love that Dante felt his heart crack open. "I didn't do it for you," she said softly. "I did it for him. Every child deserves a father who shows up." "I'm showing up," Dante promised. "Today, tomorrow, every day for the rest of his life." "We'll see," Sophia said, but there was a ghost of a smile on her lips. 1 year later, Dante sat on the floor of the living room, watching 14-month-old Daniel toddle between furniture pieces, his chubby hands grabbing for support. Every few steps, Daniel would look back at his father and giggle, proud of his accomplishment. "Dada!" Daniel squealed, launching himself toward Dante's waiting arms. "I've got you, buddy," Dante said, catching his son and lifting him high. Daniel's delighted laughter filled the room. Sophia appeared in the doorway, home from her shift at the bookstore. She refused to quit working, insisted on maintaining her independence, even as Dante proved himself day after day. "How was he?" she asked. "Perfect." We practiced walking, read 3 books, and had a very serious conversation about why we don't eat crayons. Sophia smiled, a real smile, the kind Dante had fallen in love with years ago. "And the crayon conversation went well? He's very persuasive." I may have been swayed to his side. She laughed, and the sound was everything. They'd been living like this for a year now, Dante fully present in Daniel's life, slowly rebuilding trust with Sophia. They weren't married anymore. The divorce had been finalized 8 months ago, at Sophia's insistence. But they were partners in raising their son. And somewhere along the way, in the mundane moments of diaper changes and midnight feedings and first steps, they'd begun to remember why they'd fallen in love in the first place. "Dante," Sophia said quietly, sitting beside him on the floor. "I've been thinking." His heart rate picked up. About us. About the past year." She looked at Daniel, now contentedly playing with blocks. "You've shown up every single day. You've never missed a moment. You've put Daniel first, always. He is first. You both are. I know. I can see that now." Sophia turned to face him. "I'm not ready to remarry you. I'm not sure I'll ever be ready for that." Dante's heart sank, but he nodded. "I understand. But," she continued, "I think I'm ready to try dating you again. Real dating. Not co-parenting with friendly conversation, but actual trying to build something together." Hope bloomed in Dante's chest, fragile and precious. "Really? Really? You've earned that much. You've proven you've changed." Dante reached for her hand, the same way he had on their first date 7 years ago. "Sophia-chun, would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow night?" She squeezed his hand. "I would. But Dante, I know. We're starting over, building from scratch. And if you decide at any point that this isn't what you want, I'll respect that." "Thank you." Daniel chose that moment to toddle over and collapse into both their laps, creating a tangle of arms and legs and laughter. Looking at his son, at Sophia's genuine smile, at the life they were slowly rebuilding, Dante felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. He'd lost an empire, an alliance, and nearly everything that had once defined him. But he gained what actually mattered, a son who looked at him with unconditional love, and a chance, however fragile, to prove he could be the man Sophia deserved. And this time, he wasn't going to waste it. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love the story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.